Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast. It is June 7th. The weekly news is coming at you, episode 151. Dan Cowd is joining me today. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, good to be here. What's up, Gavin?
Oh, not too much, man. Just another episode. Lots of great news. A couple of surprise announcements, too. So we'll
Nice.
see what we can do. But first of all, we want to thank our sponsors. So Ortus Solutions, we want to thank you for making this podcast possible. Makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and all the other boxes out there. A few ways you can say back to Ortus Solutions. Of course, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. But most importantly, come visit us at Into the Box. So ITB tickets are available, so come check out the conference. And we have links to the Box Life Store as well, which we'll be putting in the chat here, so you guys can go check out some of the cool shirts and merchandise we have for you. And then after that, we can be Patreon supporters. You want to tell us about that, Dan?
Yes, for the Patreon support, we have 37 supporters at this point. They are providing 100% of the funding for the Modernize or Die podcast, which is a huge thank you to you guys. That's great. Our Patreon site is patreon.com/Ortus Solutions. Our first goal was actually funding the podcast. Our second goal is to fully fund the hosting of ForgeBox.io. That is a huge part of CommandBox and our CFML ecosystem. And so that's one of our goals, is to have that fully funded. Right now, Ortus is sponsoring that as well.
Yep, very cool. Okay, well, next up, we actually have a Patreon-sponsored job posting. So Brian over at Haggerty Motorsport Reg, they have 2 job opportunities, and they want to tell you a little bit more about it. So let's listen to that. And today with me, I have Brian from Haggerty. You want to tell us a little bit about what you guys do over there?
Hey, Gavin, thanks for having us on. First, we're big fans of the podcast, so it's fun to be here with you today. I work at a company called Haggerty. I am a longtime ColdFusion person that folks might know from conferences and so forth many years ago. And right now I'm leading a team at Haggerty, and we build a 2-sided SaaS marketplace called motorsportreg.com. And so this last year, we did hundreds and hundreds of thousands of event registrations for automotive and motorsport events. And right now I'm looking to hire 2 senior ColdFusion and JavaScript developers. So we've got a pretty large and pretty complex ColdFusion app, and we're also building a lot of Node and Vue. That's kind of our future technology stack. And so we're looking for 2 engineers to come join our team and help us basically build, enhance, and grow into the future.
Wow, sounds pretty good. I know that you did a lot of work with the CF payment library back in the day when we met way back in 2013 or something, I think, at CF Objective.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was like basically battle tested because you guys put just thousands and thousands of transactions through it, right?
Yeah, the CF payment was a labor of love for me. I saw something that was cool in another language, and I'm like, we need that in ColdFusion. I can say that library has probably processed, I mean, maybe $1 billion, not just from us, from lots of people who use it, but I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So yeah, we work at a pretty large scale. And the other cool thing is that it's consumer facing. So, you know, my family, a lot of my family are accountants. And so the joke that I always make is you can build any kind of software anywhere, like you can build accounting software, but we get to build software for motorsports. And so one of the fun side effects of that is that we get to go to the racetrack and we deal with people who are really living out their passion. Like this is what they love to do for fun. And so it's a fun space to be operating in and supporting them at that scale.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of pictures up on Twitter, and I do get jealous. But well, it sounds great. Sounds like you guys are doing great things in the community and in the industry. And yeah, so we got 2 spots available. So if you guys are interested, check out Brian, and we'll have more details in the show notes. So thanks a lot, Brian.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone.
So that was Brian, Haggerty Motorsport Reg. So 2 job opportunities for senior software developers. We'll tell you a little bit more in the job section, and the link is posted in the chat and available in the show notes. Cool. Okay, next up, we have some news and announcements. So here's a big announcement, fresh off the press. You want to tell us about it?
I do. So we have a live stream series that's starting up. Okay. And the first one is called Coding with the Kiwi and Friends. Now, as you may have guessed, the Kiwi here on my left would be Gavin Pickin. Starting this Friday, June 10th at 1 p.m. Basically, it's a series of live coding. Okay. The goal is for there to be weekly streams whenever possible. Gavin will be hosting a live stream for Patreon members only. The streams try to include special guests from the community to get their viewpoints and advice on how Gavin should do something. There'll be pair programming, talking with Adam Cameron about test-driven development, Sam Knowlton about Quick and QuickDB, Walter Bruno will be joining us from Europe on the API documentation and validation, and others from the Ortus team and the community as well. Gavin was describing this to us earlier. We basically said, so basically you become a Patreon, you get to yell at Gavin all week.
Well,
Done.
just to be clear, we have to ask to be unmuted. So,
fair enough.
But basically, just a live stream. A few people have been asking us about doing a live stream for a while, and so we decided to offer it up. And we wanted to give the Patreon something a little extra. Those people that are supporting us in lots of different ways. So this is a nice perk for them. So we'll get in a Zoom room, and like I said, we'll do sort of pair programming format. I'll be working on what I'm building for some of the upcoming conferences and stuff. So I thought, well, I'm going to build it anyway. Let's get some takes from some of the community members and live stream, maybe chit chat with the Patreons a little bit, and then we'll release the video later for the non-Patreon, so you guys will still be able to see it. But if you're not a Patreon and you want to join in, sign up today. We got some really nice affordable packages. $10 a month is the starting package, or you can just wait for the recording. We'll put that up on CFCasts and probably YouTube as well after the session.
The cost of 1 cup of coffee a month at Starbucks. If you get that thing, you too can be a Patreon supporter.
Yep, and so this week's guest is a bit of a surprise, but let's just say coding with the Kiwi, which is me. You might have a little more Kiwi than you thought. We'll just leave it at that. So yeah, I can't wait to tell you more about that. Okay, cool. So that's Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. I just probably should put that in there, Pacific time.
Oh yeah, good point. I just said 1 p.m., didn't I?
Yeah, that's okay. So into the box updates. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. We've been announcing a lot of different things, and the first thing we're basically going to announce is Into the Box 2022 podcast series. So we have another Modernize or Die podcast called the Conference Edition. We basically spin that up whenever we have a conference coming up in the CFML community, and we're started that one. And the first one is going to drop today, so you'll see a little bit more about the conference itself, and we'll be talking to people who are basically running the workshops, some speakers and they talk about their sessions, and some sponsors as well. So we'll be getting those. They'll just be short, sharp little episodes to help you figure out if you want to go Into the Box, and when you do decide you're going, because you will, then you'll decide which workshop or sessions you want to attend. So we're going to be recording a few, and the next one, I think, out after the first one, which is an intro to the conference, will be Dan talking about his workshop, right, Dan?
Yeah, which should be good. I'm doing a whole day long workshop on basically refactoring legacy software, why you want to do it, why it's important, but also how, a whole lot of how. So we'll talk more about that, the actual podcast. But
yeah, so
that was the 2-second introduction.
Yep, exactly. So that's pretty cool. And then what else we did announce the last week?
Yeah, so one of the big things also is that all ITB attendees, in addition to getting all the ITB 2022 videos after the conference, you get a free month of CFCasts, which is unfettered access to everything, all the series, all the stuff in history, everything. Basically, everything in there. We have hundreds of hours of training on all kinds of different topics. We have recaps of some of the VS codes of the week. We have paid programming on. I mean, pretty much every facet of development that we've ever touched, we have it recorded in there.
Yeah, there's some really great workshops in there. like if you haven't done the ColdBox Zero to Hero workshop, it's in there. If you haven't done the Quick workshop, it's in there. And we have some great content. We got the OOP, Object Oriented Programming. Nolan Irk recorded that series. It's a really good series too. So a lot of great videos. So yeah, so you get it for 1 month free in addition to all the 2022 ITB videos. So that's pretty neat. And also we have another sponsor to announce as well. We have Couchbase, which is going to be a platinum sponsor for Into the Box 2022. So we're really grateful for having more and more sponsors. This is turning out to be a great Into the Box already, and just more and more great stuff coming. And we have a top secret big announcement coming next week, so we'll let you know about that. Check back for the podcast because you hear it here before we even announce it on our blog. So check back for more ITB updates.
Cool. All right, well, spinning away from ITB and more into the day-to-day operations. In case you missed it, ColdBox, the next bleeding edge version of ColdBox is ready for next release. We need testers. So basically it has major refactoring in it, improvements on Wirebox, it sped a bunch of things up, but we basically need people to go ahead and test it. So if you use ColdBox, you want to see what the new bleeding edge features are, go ahead and pull that, install it, and let us know what's better, what's not, and anything we missed.
Yep, I'm going to be posting a couple links here to the Jira boards that tells you all the different pieces that were included in it. They're kind of hairy long links, but it'll take you right there so you can see improvements for that stuff. So very cool.
Exactly. And along those same lines, we have a new module that some people have previewed, but it's called CBFS, which stands for Command Box or ColdBox File System. It basically is a way of abstracting away saving to a number of different file formats, including S3, the local hard drive, the local file system, a wide variety of different things. And we're looking for others to contribute to that. We do need testers for it. And I think Gavin just posted the link to go ahead and check that out. This has been under development for quite a while. Part of the reason is because there's so many permutations that go into it that it just took a while to get the tests all done. But I think it's ready to go, and we need everyone to either approve or disapprove that statement.
Yep, I mean, that's the cool thing about it. The provider setup, it really abstracts it away. So if one day you're using, FTP, for example, the next day you want to move over to S3 or go back to your file system, you can. The cool thing is you can use file system locally on your machine, and then when you go to staging, you put it on S3, and so that way you can test different providers depending, because you don't want to have to use S3 for your local stuff if you're offline or whatnot. So it's very cool.
Correct.
Okay, so let's go into new releases and updates. So just a couple of reminders here. So Hyper 3.5.0 is out. So now there's a get status text and a get status method. There's a get momentum method for Hyper request and the Hyper response, just give you a data structure more easy to work with. And there's also a better throw on error experience, which shows much more information than the CFHTTP gives out of the box. So those are some things to make Hyper even better than it already was.
Cool. And those of you that haven't heard of Hyper, check it out, because basically it takes all the information, all the process of doing CFHTTP calls, puts it more in a functional programming format, and it is just really slick.
Yep, it looks just like Axios, basically, for JavaScript users. You'll know what I mean. So if you want more Axios style, Hyper is what you need.
Which is good. Along those lines, we have a minor update to the Lucee MongoDB extension. It fixes an issues where the cache entries with the last access timeout would not properly be removed from the cache in a timely manner. I'm not sure exactly all the words I just said, but I'm sure it was very important. It fixes an issue where the hit count of the table was incremented twice on each hit. That's been fixed. And then minor some code cleanup, typos and function names and that kind of stuff. But that's in the Lucee MongoDB extension.
Cool. Adam Cameron asks if CBFS requires ColdBox for its standalone. I'm pretty sure we set it up to be ColdBox at this point. It's something that, that's usually the first way we build it, but a lot of times we do allow it to be sort of configured. So I haven't actually looked at the nuts and bolts of it, Adam, to see if we're using interceptors and other things that are harder to replicate outside. But I'm sure that it'll probably be one of those things that we could, with a little bit of manual wiring to get all the pieces working, you can probably get that working too. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, usually more complicated modules are a little tougher to separate out. But I'll look into that, Adam, and give you an update.
Cool.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So next up, we have some webinars, meetups, and workshops. So what's the first one?
Now we've actually we've referenced some webinars already, but this one this week is the online CF meetup with Charlie Earhart, and the topic is when should I use third-party libraries versus roll my own? And it is being done basically by an eminent expert in the thing, the man to my left, the coding Kiwi himself. Basically, this whole podcast is all about Gavin and me being in front of the camera in different contexts. I'm kind of kidding about that. Come listen anyway. All right, so here's the topic. Basically, there's always a trade-off between third-party libraries and rolling your own, the whole build versus buy dilemma that the companies have in software development. I often hear many of the points in discussion, but I wonder how many people know and consider them. So Gavin's going to be sharing the pros and cons to each approach. The presentation will help convince you that libraries are not evil, like so many haters believe. Choosing the right libraries will make you more productive and efficient, not lazy. We'll look at how to identify solid use cases for using third-party library in your application. A checklist of questions to help you identify the red flags of unsafe, unreliable, and poorly supported or ill-suited libraries to avoid, and then some things to look for and things that you want to use.
Yep, and so we'll also be looking at some Cold Fusion landscape examples. So we'll talk about some things that you definitely want to use as a third party, some that you may want to keep away from, and just try and do that without talking too much smack. But it'll be good information for sure. So I gotta finish writing that, finalizing that. So come check that out. So the link there we'll be posting in the chat very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up we have the Ortus Webinar in June, getting started with a legacy migration with Dan Card. So that's going to be you, June 24th, 11 a.m. Central Time. So we'll be looking at the process of converting legacy CFML based sites into a more modern coding design. It has less overall code, easier to maintain, mistakes and errors can be found more easily and fixed, easier to read, all the pros and cons basically, and a lot of pros, and that's why obviously we promote it, and that's why Ortus is so busy with all our customers trying to help them modernize their code. So Dan, you do quite a lot of work on this on a daily basis, right? Helping Ortus clients.
Yeah, Ortus clients, my own projects, all the stuff that runs. We've all. That's the thing about legacy code. We've all written it. We've all been there. We talk about, we look at stuff that we've done. So how do we actually make it better? And what's funny is that I've heard people say, well, you just want people to code a certain way. Personally, I don't care how people code, but we do think that the idea of modernizing has very tangible benefits to your professional life, potentially your personal life, how, you just in general, how you feel about going to work. There are tangible benefits to actually doing all this. And we're going to get into some of those, as well as actually some of the techniques that we're going to look at. Now, it's only an hour, so you'll get a small taste of the day-long workshop that we're going to get at ITB.
Yep, exactly. So this will be a great starting point. So very cool. So yep, the links will be posting here in a second on how to go register for that. And then the Meetup link I just posted as well. So, but what else do we have coming up soon?
A couple things. One, the Seattle Cold Fusion Users Group. Basically, they've basically said that they're trying to do a reboot. So we're restarting the Seattle Cold Fusion Users Group meetings, and are looking forward to meeting online with all of you. This month's meeting includes a presentation by Leon O'Daniel on sending SMS messages using Cold Fusion and the Twilio API.
Yeah,
it's interesting actually. People must be emerging from the woodwork, because the Boston Cold Fusion Users Group actually just got an email 2 days ago, kind of not so much as a reboot, but just kind of saying, where are we, and let's have an event.
No, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we also have some Adobe workshops. So Adobe Cold Fusion workshops, one-day workshops. We've got the next one coming up on June 15th, so next week I believe, 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. It's going to be led by Brian Sappi, and we'll be sharing the link there. And then we have another one coming up June 22nd.
Mm-hmm. June 22nd actually is we don't have a topic yet, but it's going to be more geared toward our European audience. It's 9 a.m. Central European Time, CET. It is being done by Damien Bruendo, and we don't have a topic of that, but we do have a link that you can go look at it.
Yeah, it's basically the one-day workshop, a lot of the same content, so...
Gotcha.
Yep, looks really good. Sorry for talking over you, didn't mean to.
No, you're totally fine. I've actually been trying to paste these in, but you're beating me to it every time. So you're doing double duty over there, narrating as well as doing all the work. I'm just going to sit here. You're doing great.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're totally fine. It's all good. For a full list of all the Adobe conferences that are coming up, and workshops and webinars, you can visit the link that Gavin just posted up there. Meet us at adobeevents.com/coldfusion. Yep,
there's a lot of great stuff there. They list all the webinars and everything as well, and hopefully they get the recordings up there. There's a recordings button as well. Mm-hmm. Adobe and Carasoft are doing some workshops together as well. We just had one June 1st. There was the Advanced Adobe Cold Fusion workshop, and it has CPE credits available for those who require those. And then upcoming, so today, June 7th, is also a workshop. So I guess if you don't want to do any more work today, you want to just jump into a workshop, today's workshop link is right there. Mm-hmm. So that June 7th, again, this one is again hosted by Adobe and Carasoft. Some good information. Wow, lots of stuff going on.
Oh, do you have a time on that?
No, I think it's an all-day workshop. I don't have a time.
Oh, it's an all-day workshop. Oh, I see.
Okay. Well, let's talk about CFCasts. We got tons and tons of CFCasts stuff going on these days. So I'm going to share my screen for those watching while you tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, and I will. Okay, so just released. We have a whole series on Logbox 101. There's basically it's on installation and getting started. And basically, what is Logbox? You can actually, it's a way of writing in your code. You write to Logbox and it can output whatever your log is supposed to be based on priority, and output to the console, to CF trace, to you can have it be null in certain places. You can write to email. You can write to all kinds of things. So this is setting up Logbox and getting it working in your applications. Along with that, we have the idea of publishing your first ForgeBox package. Basically, life more and more is happening in packages. And so this is actually packaging up your own. And that, I don't know. Oh, yeah. So that's actually part of the content that's been updated.
Yep.
And a little bit on the ForgeBox admin and dashboard, right?
Yep, exactly. So there's a lot of great stuff there. The Logbox series is going to continue soon as well. But don't forget, you've got ForgeBox Module of the Week. So we've released 3 of those, and we've released 3 of the VS Code Hint, Tip, and Trick of the Week. So instead of going back through all the podcasts, you can just go and look on CFCasts and get all of those there. And they're up on YouTube as well. We've got a little playlist on YouTube for all of 2022's releases. So we keep adding them as we process them, ripping them out of the podcast. And so soon we'll be caught up. So you'll only get one a week. But
which I'm actually looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to going back and look at this. Everyone's been hyping up VS Code so much. I use IntelliJ and I'm very happy with it. I think it's great. There's a couple of reasons why I'm thinking about changing, but I've been forcing myself the last couple of days to just use VS Code. And I haven't looked at the podcast yet, like basically on the tips and tricks, because I want to get acclimated without all kinds of extensions and everything else. But I think very soon I'm going to go jump over there and see how I can make this a little more interesting.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing with some of the older extensions. A lot of times they build them into the core now. So what was an extension that we talked about like in 2021? There's there's a way to do it. And sometimes even recently we had, I think Matthew Brown posted a comment, and he said that a lot of those are set up and basically they're all settings now, so it's kind of strange. But each their own, internal, external. There's lots of options there. Cool. Before we go
quick
on,
update.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Nope.
Sorry, quick update we just got from Scott Steinbeck that all the seats are filled for the Adobe Workshop. So please ignore our announcement. We weren't so much advertising it as just dangling in front of you that you couldn't go. Yep. Sorry about that. All right, so coming soon also to CFCast. We had the last couple of videos that Gavin's published your first ForgeBox package, Logbox 101, which we mentioned. The idea of boxifying a third-party library, and that's also from Gavin. So in addition to basically choosing what libraries you can use, you can put them into a ForgeBox module. Did you just do all these?
No, I'm working through these series right now. So
okay. And then basically, as we mentioned before, the ForgeBox and the VS Code podcast snippet. Sorry about that. I just want to make sure I didn't read that the second time.
No.
Conferences and trainings.
Yeah, no, the boxifying third-party library is sort of like building on top of, because we've done the first ForgeBox package, and usually the thing is like, okay, I've now built a package. How do I convert this code to a package? So this is sort of like working through it, and there's a lot of great content out there, but not a lot of it is, not all of it is put in ForgeBox. So we're going to try and take some third-party libraries with permission and boxify them. So we'll put them into, ForgeBox module, and then we'll make them, work within ColdBox, but still make them available to work the way they were. So that way we're not, making it worse. We're just improving it for those who are using ColdBox.
Makes sense.
Okay. Conferences and training. So this week, June 8th through the 10th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, they've got the workshop and the main conference for VueJS, the US Conf. So they got a great schedule there. Hopefully some of you guys made it out there. Obviously I'm not. I'm over here working hard, but there's a lot of good stuff there, and Vue usually does release the video, so hopefully we can tune in and catch what I've missed there. So, okay, hold on. We got another thing from Scott. He's working on a raw query to QB converter. He says he doesn't blog stuff, but he's at least
just
posting
comments.
it. Yep. Well, I tell him if he gets them to me in advance, I'll try and put them in the show notes.
Hey, that is pretty cool, though. I like that. I like a lot of these conversion things. I think didn't Luis a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, along those same lines, had a conversion package to go from. Oh, it wasn't FW1. It was.
I think it was.
Oh gosh.
Mach 2. I don't remember one of the, yeah.
It wasn't Mach 2, but it was the dependency injection process that Mach 2 uses.
Oh, yeah.
And it converted over to Wirebox format. So it was still Mach 2 on the front end, but it was my brain is just completely not working right now, as many of you have noticed. Okay. Other conferences this week. This is also Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference from the 6th to the 10th. That's this week. We'll be putting a link up there to kind of check out and see what's coming out from Apple.
Yep, and then shots were fired at Twitter because now apparently the way it works, Apple decided that you can now edit your messages, your text messages, and then undeliver them and stuff. And so Twitter have been asking for edited tweets for years. Even Apple's doing it. Come on, Twitter. Scott Hanselman tweeted about that. I just had to laugh. But we also have
Cold Spring. That's what it was.
Cold Spring. Yep, you're right. Yep, and so QuasarConf is coming up soon. July 9th is the conference. It's going to be 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and the deadline for proposals is June 9th. So I've been chit-chatting with little Quasar people, and I'm thinking I'm going to submit something. So if you guys got any recommendations for what type of stuff I should submit to the QuasarConf, let me know. I'm going to figure something out and maybe get on the list. It'd be kind of nice to show off some ColdBox and some command box inside of my Vue app from Quasar.
I like it. Part of the Cold Fusion Subversion project. I like it.
Yep. Speaking of that, that conference does a little bit of that too with our little friend Daniel Garcia.
Yes, that's right. That conference is coming up, and yes, it is called That Conference. We're not trying to be alluding to anything. It's a full stack tech obsessed community of fun code loving humans who share and learn together. We geek out in Texas and Wisconsin once a year, but we host digital events all the time. So coming up on July 25th to the 28th in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, it's a 4-day summer camp for developers passionate about learning all things mobile, web, cloud, and technology. And I think we're putting the link up there. I also think that and just to highlight that, Daniel Garcia is speaking there. If you guys have never seen Daniel speak, he's good. He is thorough. He is detail oriented. He's a really good guy. You definitely should check out what he has to say because he knows what he's talking about. I think we jumped over another one coming up on June 9th through 10th. So the end of this week is the VueJS conference.
I already did that one.
us.vuejs.org.
Yeah, I already talked about that.
Did you? Okay, yeah. I just wanted to highlight it again because Vue's that awesome. And evidently, as I said before, I'm here, but I evidently am watching a different channel. So anyway, go on.
No problem. Yep. So Daniel Garcia's session is going to be great. And the cool thing about that conference, for those watching, I was sharing the screen and showing some photos. They've got like a cool kids section too that's really family oriented, and you can actually get tickets for family members to go. And as I say every week, I love it because it's at a water park. But also, Adobe Developer Week is coming up. For those that didn't know, the sessions, let me just double check, but last time I looked this morning, the speakers' names and stuff were not on there yet, but they were emailing me to confirm, because if you didn't notice, on Twitter and on Facebook, my face has popped up, so I am one of the speakers at Adobe Developer Week, and there's been a few more announced. Hopefully they'll have the full list up there on the website soon. They just they're getting those final approvals from speakers to get that listed. So we should hear any day now. But it's July 18th through the 22nd. It's online, virtual, and free. It's a whole week long. It's a few sessions a day, spread out over the week. So a lot of great content. The expert's going to be gearing up to host a series of webinars, all things Cold Fusion, chance to learn with them. It's going to be talking about JavaScript and Cold Fusion, and just everything really. So it's going to be a good one. Go sign up. Again, it's free, and it's a good way to spend your summer. And if you aren't sick of me yet, you will be, because I'm speaking there too. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, where are we? VueJS Forge?
Yep.
Okay. All right, after many requests, they've actually changed the dates. I'm not sure when it was, but now it is on July 13th and 14th. And it says, due to many of you taking advantage of early summer vacations, we have decided to postpone the event to a date that will make sure as many of you as possible won't miss out on the opportunity to attend VueJS Forge. So the new dates, I believe, are July 13th through the 14th.
Yep, and I'm excited about this one. I'm going to be participating here, and so you get to meet a bunch of different people. You get to work on some projects. It's a 2-day hackathon, and they should be releasing the information real soon. But we're gonna be working with like VueJS, Vite, Pinia, which I haven't used yet, so that'll be interesting if you use. And then basically as they get through, they're going to be giving us more information. There's workshops you can attend and everything. And you can be a mentor as well. So we're going to have some top mentors there trying to help the team. So I'm excited. I think it'd be a good opportunity to mix with some other developers and come up with some cool solutions to an interesting puzzle. And it sounds like basically we're going to be building a SaaS product, like build your own SaaS. So very cool. So
nice.
Yep. So up next, we've got more information on Into the Box. No, we've already talked about Into the Box enough, right? So you want to give us the dates?
Dates basically are September 6th, 7th, and 8th of this year. It's in Houston. We've changed locations. It's a little bit of an upgrade and a lot of stuff to do in the area, as well as the actual conference and the content. So definitely want to check it out. Don't let Houston in September scare you. It's not as bad as it is in August. Obviously, we'll be inside and be very comfortable. But yeah, there's 1-day workshops before the 2-day conference. The workshops are on the 6th, 7th, and 8th are the workshops, and the super early bird pricing. It ended on May 31st, but there's still early bird pricing. So the super early bird is done, but the early bird pricing is still going on right now. And the website is available at intothebox.org.
Yep. So the website's got a lot of stuff on there. We've got speakers. We're still updating it. There's more speakers to be announced soon. Again, I mentioned there's a big surprise coming up very soon. We'll announce that next week. But yeah, the sessions are there. Our sponsors are listed there. And yeah, a lot of good stuff. But early bird registration is available. Grab it before they go up even more. And then some of the sessions are already announced up here too. Again, we got a couple more coming. But check it out. We're really excited. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is going to be a really good time.
Yep, for sure. And then, check out the ITB blog. We're announcing stuff all the time on there too. Okay, another conference coming up. We've got CF Summit. That's going to be October 3rd and 4th in Las Vegas. And for those who are watching, you get to see the screen. So last year they had a ton of people. It was an online conference, so this is the first one back in person for 3 years. It's going to be at the Mirage, and the ticket pricing is really, really affordable. They're discounting these majorly to make sure we get people back in town. So $99 for the event pass. If you want the premium pass, which gives you the access to the workshop, which is the professional certification, it's $399. So it's going to be good, and Ortus is working on finalizing our details for the workshop. We will be doing workshops right after the conference. So on the conference is Monday, Tuesday. We're going to be doing workshops Wednesday, Thursday. We're just confirming the location and the pricing, getting all the logistics worked out now that Adobe's finally announced it. So we will be announcing that very soon, and we're excited to have some more workshops for you guys.
Cool.
And then
sounds good.
And then of course, the call for speakers, right, Dan? Are you going to write something? Are you going to submit a talk? Do you think CF Summit this year?
I got to be honest, it never occurred to me. Possibly. I'll have to think of something very interesting to talk about.
Yeah, never hurts. I mean, you guys should post something too. It's a big conference, lots of tracks, a couple of days. And, for most things, if you get to speak at one of these conferences, you get free attendance to the conference. You get a free hotel room at the conference. And then sometimes you get little speaker gifts and swag too. So it's pretty cool. And worst case, you get your ticket for $99. And to be honest, buy your ticket. Submit anyway, and then if you do get picked, you can just get your money refunded for your ticket. So that way you don't miss those early bird pricing, hoping to see if you get picked. But
yeah, and that's a really good point. One of the things I'm trying to do a lot more is kind of throw stuff out there and see what happens, whether it be like a ForgeBox module or a blog post, whatever. Because I think I'm really good at hoarding knowledge, because I'm like, who cares about this at all? And then you throw something out there and you realize, oh, actually people do.
And
so this might be a good opportunity for you to start, or not you, Gavin, but anybody.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, I don't think I'm the best developer in the world, but there's something somebody can learn from me. There's something I can learn from everybody else too, and that's the way we got to be. The more we learn from each other, a lot of times you take things for granted too. You build up all this knowledge over time, and somebody's just not there yet. There will be in time, but if you can share some lessons, that'll help them through some of that pain. So. Speaking of pain, just kidding, Adobe Certified Professional apparently is really hard this time. So the specialist before was a lot easier. Mark said that they worked hard to make this exam for the certified professional a lot harder, and so when you do pass, you will feel really proud. But that's got 100 hours of content too. So you've got 100 hours of video content you can watch before the conference. So I would sign up now just so you start on that content, because it's going to take you a while to get through 100 hours before. And then there's a one-day lecture, and then you have the certification at the end of it. So
yeah, we say it's hard. Basically, they've redone the whole thing.
Yeah.
They assembled the team, the CF engineering team, Elisha Kishore, Nolan, Dave F., Mark Takata, and a bunch of people just basically locked themselves in a room for a week or so, and then basically come up with a new test. So
yeah,
this one sounds like it's got some game.
Yeah. But again, we'll be doing our workshop the same day. So if you're not going to the Adobe Certified Professional, we've got some workshops, 2-day workshops. And so, but yeah, so you got some good options. But if you did take their certification before, it is a different one. So I just wanted to let you know. Okay, what else we got coming up, Dan?
All right, coming up in December, on December 7th, this is Into the Box Latam. It's in El Salvador. More information is coming very soon, but basically it isn't the same sessions as what you're going to get in Houston. It's different ones, mostly because I don't think you want me, for example, speaking in Spanish. It would be very badly for everybody. I'm working on it, but we'll get there. But yeah, Into the Box Latam, and that's this December.
Yep, and then we're going to be doing CF Camp. Sorry, not CF Camp.
No CF Camp.
No CF Camp. Yeah, they're trying to do it in summer 2023. That's the next goal. They just can't do it right now with too much uncertainty and everything else. But they're coming back. They're just waiting for a good time. So hopefully summer 2023, and we can all go to Europe and enjoy some good times there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Not that you ever need an excuse, as Adam pretty much pointed out to me a couple of weeks ago. You never need an excuse to go to Europe. You can go. Just if you happen to go during the conference, it's always a good thing.
Yep, for sure.
And if you need more conferences, go to Conference Tech, not a sponsor, just a really good resource. Need more conferences? The site has a huge list of conferences for almost any language or community.
Yep.
Conference.tech.
Exactly. Okay. Take a deep breath. Blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So let's start it off with some Benadell action. He's got a few this week. He's back pumping out blog posts like a crazy person, but we love it. So this one, he's talking about disabling the async attribute on CFMail for at least once delivery in Lucee. So this is one of those things that people love and hate about Cold Fusion is you can send mail and it doesn't slow down the process because by default, email is sent asynchronously. It puts it in a spool and then sits there, and then the mailer will go through and process it and mail it. And that's usually not a problem if you lose a piece of mail here and there or whatever, but sometimes you really need those emails to go out. And so, as Ben said, for at least once delivery in Lucee, he basically turns the async off, so the page will actually wait for the mail to send to make sure it actually does get sent, and that way he knows that it's safe. Especially working with Docker and everything else, that's really really vital, because when you spin up a Docker instance, it'll spin up and spin down. Those spool files on the Docker image, they don't last. So if you're not using something like SendGrid or Postmark, using traditional CFMail on your machine, it's perfectly fine to use async for most things, where it's not that bad. If I forgot my password, got it lost, but some things, where it only can happen once, you really want to make sure it works. And so that's kind of a cool article he wrote about that and his process, and talks it through. So I really like that one.
Oh, that makes sense. From Peter Amiri, new article as of today. Basically, it says CF Wheels. There's 2 new repositories that have been published. We published 2 new repositories named CF Wheels, CF Wheels WWW, and CF Wheels API, which handle the CFWheels.org landing page site and the API CFWheels.org API documentation site, respectively. So 2 new repos out there if you're CF Wheels users.
Yep, and the cool thing about that is they're basically nice little templates for how you build your CF Wheels sites or APIs. So they've got get ignore files in there to make things more blocked and locked down. So it's kind of like a good starting point if you're wanting to build your app. So similar to the way that they've got some templates out there too, but it's kind of nice. I like that. So making it available for people to see the best practices is always good.
Nice. Cool. Continuing on with the CF Wheels theme, another blog post from Peter Amiri yesterday. Excuse me. We have a new plugin was published to provide support for env settings files in a production setting.
Yep, and
And
we'll
it's
actually talk
basically
about this one a little bit later on today too, and
we are. Okay.
ForgeBox
Gotcha.
module of the week. So yeah.
Cool. Well, this is actually the plugin's based on Eric Peterson's CommandBox module and allows the use of env or similarly named files to store your application secrets, so they can be kept out of your source control.
Yep.
Which is usually a good thing.
For sure. If you want to see how many people don't do that, you can search, .env on GitHub, and you'll find hundreds and thousands of credentials that should never have been there in the first place. So, at least make sure your git ignore has .env ignored.
Yes. Not that we're advocating that you actually do that, but you could if you were going to.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they've cycled all those tokens and everything that they published. Anyways, next up we have Will de Bruin. He's been talking about a bug in Lucee, and it's to do with the image new. So a couple of weeks ago, I think we talked about Eric Peterson's module, the TOTP, which is the time-based one-time password module, and it generates a QR code that you can basically use for one-time passwords. And Will tried it out, and he talked to Eric because it wasn't working, and he found out there was only an issue on Lucee. So apparently the image new function is broken. So if you want to find out a bit more about that, check out that blog there. So image new bug in Lucee. We also had another one from Ben Nadal. So he was talking about adding new regular expression passing to his regex project. Actually, that is the project I'm working on for the new ForgeBox series from converting third-party libraries for CFCasts. And so let me share my screen here. This JRegex project he has is pretty cool. It's got a lot of good stuff. But Ben's regular day expression, so regex expression day, I think it was June 1st, and we've got a blog post about that. But he did some updates to his project to include some of those things that he did in another blog post we'll talk about in a minute too. So so he basically added a bunch of new methods, and so he's got the JRegex CFC, which is his existing component, has a bunch of cool things, and then now he has a JRegex list, so you can get the first or an item at or the last or the length. So using the regex on a list and giving these sort of more fluent helper methods. So he's got got first, last, rest, etc. So he's got all these. He made a new one here, so pretty neat. So I like that one as well.
Nice. Very cool. All right, continuing on with different blog posts. Mark Takata from Adobe. There's a CLI installation of Cold Fusion and for lower memory use. Now, for those of you that haven't seen this, one of the key features of the updates in Cold Fusion 2021 was the addition of modularity. So you didn't have to actually install every single feature for the whole package when you installed it on your machine, whether it be through CommandBox or whether it be a site-wide thing through the conventional install process. It's no longer being limited to just installing the whole kit and caboodle. Now you can pick and choose your connectors and packages, allowing you to have a leaner installation. There is a GUI installer when you choose all this, but they also came out with a command line interface to install Cold Fusion. And then there's a new package manager command line interface, PMCLI, to install the packages that you need, scan your code, and see what packages you need, and then download the packages. Now, just as a little comparison, and again, this is not a knock or anything else, but it's CommandBox. The CLI from Adobe does not interface with other package managers. It's theirs and theirs alone, and it's for different parts of the Cold Fusion installation. Just because it's a CLI and it works on that, I didn't want the confusion. That isn't a slam or anything. It just
So
context.
they're Cold Fusion package managers for managing the parts of the Cold Fusion engine.
Exactly.
So, yep. And it does look pretty cool, but you will get some weird errors when you use this, because if you try to use something you haven't installed yet, it blows up pretty good. So be careful, and I mean, obviously, just check your logs and you'll see it. Like if you want to use ORM and don't install the module, it won't work. So make sure you use it. But that little tool does help you scan your code to see what you'd actually use. That's pretty cool. Pretty neat.
Yep. Which is good, because actually his whole point there is basically how to use less RAM and less memory, which is cool.
Yep.
All right, from Ortus, we have on June 3rd, we have a new kind of content digest that's coming out. Basically, the digest edition of our blogs and podcasts and everything else is coming out comes out on Fridays. Is that correct?
Yep.
And it kind of is a summary of the week of all things that happened, all things Ortus.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of it, so we decided to try and put it all in one place, because sometimes everyone's like, wait, where was that? What happened? So we just sort of
And that's
put
just
it out
people that
there.
work here.
Yeah, exactly. So, we got the podcast has new releases. We got the CFCasts, all the different videos and everything there. We got YouTube stuff. We've got stuff on the blog, Ortus. And then in the Ortus blog, we actually have an Into the Box updates, which has blog posts about all the updates that are on the Into the Box blog. So there's a lot of different stuff, and sometimes we'll post things if someone's done an interview with another podcast, or like Brad and Luis the other week were actually on a different podcast, so we put those in there too. So as release different videos and all these different things, it's just like a little summary. So on Friday when you get bored of working for the week, you can just watch our stuff all day. That's what I do.
That blog post that Brad did, I mean, the blog post, but the podcast interview that Brad did was really cool. It started off with the guys basically asking, do people still using Cold Fusion? And then at the end, they're like, holy crap, I didn't know it did all that. It was just a really cool progression to listen to through the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. I always like it when Brad starts educating the peoples. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely a good one. Go back and check that one out. That was actually on the Sonatype podcast.
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
Yep. And then we also had the blog post about the webinar for Ortus in June 2022, getting started with the legacy migration with Dan. We talked about that a little earlier, so we'll skip over that. But next up, we have some more from Ben Adele.
And this one is actually, the title is Parsing Lists Using regex Delimiter with Lucee CFML in 5.3.8.201. Version, included just for
reference.
Fun. Yeah, for reference, exactly. All right, so in honor of yesterday's regular expression day, which I still got to say, there's a day for everything.
Well, I think Ben made this one up 15 years ago. But
oh, is that what it was? Okay, cool. I wanted to play around with parsing lists in Cold Fusion using regular expressions as a delimiter, or not as a delimiter, but using a regular expression delimiter. Lists are the unsung heroes of the CFML language and are usually delimited by a single character or a set of single characters. But the beauty of a list is that it's just a string, and you can make a list out of anything using any delimiter. And sometimes you want that to be more flexible and more dynamic.
Yep, so it's a pretty cool little tool, and that's what he did eventually add into that regex one that I talked about earlier. So this, I really like just looking through and, having the visuals. He takes screenshots and does little pretty pictures, so you can really grok everything he's doing. So very neat. Like I said, I love it, and that's one of the modules that I keep getting asked to convert over to ForgeBox so more people can use it. And so I'm going to be sharing that process on CFCast.
Nice.
And then another part of that, we also had, the blog post for the regular expression day, and I'm going to share that on my screen because I like the picture. More Gert, man. Gert's on all these pictures today, but I see patterns. They're everywhere. So the cool thing is, if you look, sometimes he has the old blogs. No, not in this one. But in previous years, he actually lists all the previous years' regular expression days throughout the years, and it's kind of neat. But if you just search on regex on his blog, you can find them all. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And regex is black magic sometimes, but we all need to be better at regex. So it's nice to celebrate it.
It's one of those theoretical yeses. I don't think it's going to change in my case. I understand them. I mean, I know what they do. I know how to reference them. I know how to ask questions. I don't think I'll ever actually comprehend
all of it,
the actual syntax.
Yep. There's a lot of tools out there, regexer and everything. Nice. Can't get away without them. So what's up next?
A couple of another blog post, again from Ortus and again from Gavin. So pretty much we are just generating everything today. How to make Windows folders case sensitive. On the last blog post in the series, we discussed case sensitivity on Windows, what it is, why does it matter, and how it could mess up your developer day in ways that you never thought of. In this blog post, we are sorry, I was just being called out on it is that regex is easy. That was a little distracting. Fair enough. All right.
Yep.
I feel encouraged, Adam. Thanks. In this blog post, we're going to show you how to enable case sensitivity in Windows for a given folder, all folders underneath it, explain how case sensitivity is inherited and when it isn't. And here is the link to that.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
I think it's kind of like being tone deaf. I think I'm regex deaf. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue on.
Yep. So this is kind of interesting. I think it's pretty cool that the case sensitivity is an option in Windows 10 now. So, show you how to enable it for one folder, and then And basically what happens if you create a new folder inside that case-sensitive folder, if you copy and paste something into that folder, or if you drag, cut, or move something into a folder, and they all behave differently. I gave them a little PowerShell script so they can actually run it on a group of folders, so folders and their children. And it does mention about Windows 11. Apparently it does work a little differently on that. And I gave you the way to revert it to in case that happens. But if you want to, there's a little video you can watch as well, seeing me mess with the case sensitivity and, enabling it, setting it, and everything. And as at the bottom, I put, warning, just because the NTFS file system is case sensitive doesn't mean apps support this, so be careful. And the next blog post, which will be releasing, and I'll tell you about some of the things that bit me and give you a little bit more information about maybe it's not quite where we need it to be to use it on Windows, sadly. So it's one of the last things I really miss from having a Mac, but that's about it, really. So,
can you give me like the 10-second version about why you would want it to be case sensitive?
Well, the first blog post tells you about it, but if it's not case sensitive, basically when you're working on something Windows, things work. And you push it out to your staging and production servers that are maybe a Linux, they don't work.
Gotcha.
And then if someone has an uppercase file folder, possibly, and they commit it to the repo, and then you download it, and then you rename that folder, it thinks it's the same folder, but when you push up a new file, it'll push it up to the new folder's name, not the old folder's name, and now you have two folders with the same name on your server. And so next time you pull your code, you'll get one folder, but not the other folder on your machine, because Windows thinks it's the same, so it won't even
overwrites it.
Well, it doesn't overwrite it. It puts them in two different places, and then, you've got a mess. And so now you've got basically two sets of the same files and two different folder names, and you can't see half them on your machine, and everyone on a Mac is seeing 4 versions of everything. It's a nightmare. And so the first blog post has a video showing that. And so usually it's like, oh, the case is wrong, this didn't work. But so just recently, Adam, I had something where we had three or four branches open at one time of this one particular case where it was in a bad state. And so every time we did a merge request back into the development branch from any of those ones that were forked, we had to fix in every one of them. And so, so I had to fix it multiple times. And so I had never run into that before. Previously, it was like, oh, the case doesn't work. It's because I've got the wrong case. I'll fix that. Cool. But when it had different folder names and everything, because usually what you do is you have the file. If you want to rename it and get in Windows, you rename it to my file name 2 and then commit it, and then you rename it to my file name with the correct case and then commit it again. But that's usually how you have to do it in Windows, because if you just change the file case, it doesn't think there's a difference. So anyways, long story short, I thought this was the saving grace, but not yet, because apparently some of the tools can't handle case sensitivity, even though Windows can. And the funny thing is the file system can, but even Windows Explorer in the video did something weird as well. So you're like, oh, before I even wanted to show you what doesn't work, you can already see it doesn't work. And so, anyways, I'm just sharing the experience. It is kind of cool that you can do it, but got to figure out what works and what doesn't. So
I feel like I triggered you a little bit. I apologize. I didn't realize that it was going to be like a real emotional thing. But that does sound like a pretty not, to put it mildly, not fun situation. I hear you.
Yeah, that's like I said, one of the downsides of working with Windows is the case sensitivity, or the lack of it. But anyway, so they are working towards it. I'm doing Windows 10 stuff. Maybe Windows 11 is better. I'm also wondering if things like VS Code and other tools, if they're gonna basically enable that, because if they're on Windows, they probably don't expect it to be case sensitive, and so when things like that do happen, maybe it blows up for that reason. So, but go check out the videos. They're kind of interesting if you're not sick of me. And then next up, we did mention that Couchbase is a platinum sponsor for Into the Box, so we have that there as well, so you guys can see that. And then we have a tweet from Charlie as well. Do you want to? I'll share my screen while you talk about that.
Yeah, it starts off with sometimes it's little things. So it's good to see. Adobe today updated their downloads page with the latest Java versions, 11.0.15.1 versus 11.0.15 added last month, and 8U333 over 8U331 last month. It also fixed some sort order and how file names are shown. Sometimes it's the little things, Cold Fusion and Lucee. So.
Yep. There's so many things that change, and it's just nice to see those little things being updated, like Charlie said. So just a little thank you, Adobe. We appreciate the little things too. And then Adam Tuttle had a blog post last June. So it's still June, but it's just last June. And I wanted to speak about this one. I'm going back and listening to some of the working code podcast episodes that I missed. In one of them, they were talking about testing because Adam, who's in the chat, ripped them a new one about their testing episode, which was pretty funny and pretty great. But so Adam got on a quest to get better at testing, and so this is what this blog post is about. And I really like the analogy. He says the flywheel of testing. And so, basically talks about, testing and how he was trying to get better. And basically it's kind of like a flywheel, like it's really hard to get moving. But once you start testing and you get to the flow and you start adding more tests and building on it, it basically just gets to the point where you build up this momentum and inertia and it keeps going. And so he's still learning, but, it's just kind of a nice analogy. So I thought I'd share that one here. He's doing some JS tests and everything in here. But it's kind of cool, and yeah, I just liked the analogy and the walking through it. So definitely very cool, and I think we need to do more testing. We need to be not afraid to do testing, and I think a lot of it is we're scared when we start testing that there's too much and we haven't done a good job of it. We're almost ashamed that we haven't done it, so we avoid it. We avoid things that are we're ashamed of, and so I think people just kind of ignore it because. To be honest, I don't like testing when I feel like I should have more. But if I'm in the mode and I start testing, I like it and I like to do more. The worst part is when you come in something, you don't know where to start. And so we've done sessions about that before, like the good way to get started and everything. And so anyway,
it's interesting because along those same lines, I'm just as part of getting ready for the refactoring. I'm reading a book by Martin Fowler, and he basically is saying if you're not testing, you should not be refactoring. Because you don't know what kind of problems you're introducing and everything else, and so it is such a just a standard scaffolding thing that you should have.
Yep. I mean, and my rule is if you're touching something, write some tests around it. I mean, a lot of times you're changing a function, give it some inputs, test the output. If that doesn't change, you probably haven't broken it. And that's kind of the key. And Boy Scout rule, leave it a little better than when you found it. As long as you're improving your testing, you are doing a good job. You don't have to have everything tested, but if you're improving it, right? And I'm going to show this message because basically without tests, it's not refactoring, it's just changing stuff. And Adam's shared that quote, but I've heard that many times before. He just beat me to it. So yeah,
nice.
And Uncle Bob, clean code. Robert, it's not his quote. He's just giving us the quote. But yeah, so basically, it's a great book. Clean Code and Martin Fowler's books are good too. So definitely check them out.
It's a good point. David Levin just said it's easy to get lost in the details when you're writing tests. It's true. What's interesting though is it's also easy to find details that you should be focused on when you're testing. One thing I've noticed when you're actually developing something, it's so easy to just fly through and you're like the ideas are coming, you're typing like crazy and and it's great and it all comes out. But then the test actually forced you to kind of go back and actually fill in the blanks, so to speak. It's like, okay, I got that part now. Okay, am I returning the right stuff? Well, I wouldn't have thought of that unless I might have write the test. What happens if I throw different data types in and that kind of stuff? So I found actually that the point is it forces me to slow down.
Yep.
But you're right. I've also noticed along those same lines, though, your point, David, is that if you start tracking, like basically I have a color coding list that basically when it runs a test, it turns green, if it red and everything else, and it persists. And so you can actually see this page turn green. And it's really nice, except I've also had to come up with a new phrase called vanity testing, which basically is you test stuff that really that will need tests to be thorough, but really it wasn't the most important thing to test, but I wrote it to make the thing turn green. So I had to kind of catch myself there testing the important stuff first.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so Scott's saying it might be good to ask for some scenarios people have, that need tests for the workshop. I think it's sometimes hard to apply textbook tests to a personal project. And you're right, Scott. And actually, another project of mine that I'm thinking about and planning is about testing, because I've done quite a lot of testing stuff over the years at different conferences. And a lot of times people need to know how to get started. How do I write a test for this? And as Adam says, though, if you write the test first, it's not so hard to get everything. I like, when Adam says write the test first too, people get confused because sometimes you got to figure out what you want it to do, and then once you figure that out, then you write your test. But you write your test as your requirements. These are the inputs I want. This is what I want to get back. And then if you do something BDD-ish, where your cases are, it should send an email, not, test method returns true. And basically, be more, I think user stories is the way I like to put it, when, the scenario sort of case. Basically, when I want to send an email and I send and I don't have a to address and a from address, it should error. Or if I do, I want to send an email and I provide an email for from and to and the subject, then then it should send an email, stuff like that. So you test the features and the requirements, not the logic. That's what Adam's saying. So anyway, we could talk about testing for hours, but that's what we're doing today.
And I'm totally taking a screenshot of this because Dan makes a good point. Doesn't happen nearly often enough.
Scott said Dan makes a good point. Yep. Get a little good stuff in there. But okay. Well, next up, let's talk about some find a job. So we have getcfmljobs.com has 94 jobs posted from 53 companies across 47 locations in 5 countries. And we have 2 new job postings listed. You want to tell us about them, Dan?
We do. There's a Cold Fusion dev. It is located at Kavapati, and that's in Tamil Nadu in India. It says Cold Fusion dev. It doesn't say many other details. That's full-time. Another full-time senior Cold Fusion developer at work. This is in Latin America at Cologne. It says PA, but I'm guessing that doesn't mean Pennsylvania.
No, it says Latam, so I'm going to pull it open and see. So it's in Cologne, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah, so
sounds so much better when you say Cologne. It just sounds a little more exotic than hey Colon. It's a whole different connotation. You know what I mean? Nothing against Pennsylvania. It just is an interesting name of town.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway, that was started as June 1st, and we're putting the link up in there. I'll do it right now.
Okay, so yeah, I'm curious why the Latam. So, anyways,
maybe whoever it is has a lot of focus on Latin America.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there was a language requirement or anything, but I didn't see it. So, but we also have some other job postings. We obviously mentioned the one earlier from Haggerty Motorsport Ridge. So they're seeking 2 senior software engineers to work primarily with Node, VueJS, Cold Fusion, and AWS to improve their platform and build greenfield experiences. So
cool.
They got 25 people team, right? Pretty big numbers.
60, yes, this 25-person team supporting 1,600 organizations with their SaaS CRM, commerce, and event management platform. With 8,000 events managed in our marketplace annually by our customers, our goal is to be the #1 software platform for automotive and motorsport events, which just sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I see Brian all the time on Twitter racing cars and playing around the track and stuff. So if you're a car guy, it'll probably be pretty awesome. And if you like to be one of those girls who does drag races and stuff, they can probably give you a pretty good hookup there too. So it wouldn't hurt to go meet your customers,
Sure.
So, and we got other job links as well.
Other job links. Okay, Ortus Solutions. We are hiring. So basically, ortussolutions.com/about-us/careers. We're hiring. There's also Clear Capital. Carol from the Working Code Podcast. They're hiring, and there's a jobs channel in the CFML Slack team as well as the Box team Slack channel. So all those basically have the listings, cfmljobs.com, and a lot of places to go because people are looking.
Yep, for sure. Okay, our ForgeBox module of the week is CF Wheels, the .env settings plugin. So we talked about this one a little bit before. And this module reads secrets contained in a .env file or other file that you specify and loads those values into CF Wheels settings. And this is based on Eric Peterson's CommandBox module. So .env is a pretty popular concept for a lot of different tools and languages. And this one basically Eric built. And so what this one does, it goes a step further. So usually when using CommandBox and you use a .env file, the .env module for CommandBox automatically loads your .env file into your Java settings, and so that becomes available as environment variables for you to use. So if you're not in a CommandBox server though, those .env files don't get read. So what this one does is it actually is a plugin for CF Wheels. If you drop it into your CF Wheels plugins folder and you restart your application or use the Wheels CLI to install it, you can do CF Wheels.env settings as installer. And then basically you can have a .env file in your root project. Make sure you add it to git ignore. Always have that ignored. And then basically you can use property style, but they also have JSON style, which is interesting. I don't know if other people do that in .envs as well or not, but
I've never seen that. No, but that's
property
cool.
style. But the cool thing is basically that in your CF Wheels app, you can read secrets by adding the read.env settings to your application. So if you put it on your application start file, basically it'll read them in and put them into your settings. And so you can use the get. And so I say ColdBox has help us similar to this that read from the environment variables or the Java settings. And so if you do, I think get system setting, and then you have the name of the key, and then you can give it a default as well. So that way you can load them up. So this is basically a Wheels version. And the cool thing is that it actually will read, the file directly, so you don't have to worry about having command box to run it. So this type of thing might be useful for a ColdBox app if you're not using command box as well. But using command box with a .env module, it does it for you automatically. But it's kind of cool to see, CF Wheels are making their developers' lives easier, and that's really the goal. And if you do want a different name, you just pass the name in to the read.env settings. So
cool.
And remember, if you're on like Nginx and Linux, usually .file, so .env dots are usually ignored, so they can't be accessed remotely. If you change it to something else, it may not be blocked, so always make sure you block them from your servers, because again, if you go to everybody's website and add .env on the end of it and they've got a file accessible, you can get all your secrets not so secret anymore.
I have to do a quick thing. Sorry about this. Going back to the jobs for 1 second. I tried pasting the job link for Clear Capital, and the URL with all the parameters was too long for the chat here on here. So basically, it's listed at jobs.jobvite.com, but all the parameters to actually get there, it was too long for the chat, so I couldn't post it. So I just didn't want to kind of gloss over it because it's important.
Yep. Let me see if I can get a short link real quick too.
Okay. That would have been pretty smart to do too.
Yeah, I didn't think of it until now either. We've been doing it for a couple of weeks, so.
That's all good. Man.
Yep.
All right, so coming up, we also have,
hold on.
While you're doing that,
let me push the button here.
Or don't put your application code in a web accessible directory. Yeah, I guess if you want to, suppose. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a crazy idea, Adam. What are you talking about?
This is the VS Code hint, tips, and tricks of the week, coming soon to a CFcast near you.
Yep, and so last week we did one about MySQL using the Oracle DB, and everybody said, what about MyDB? So this week, this is for them.
We are looking at SQL Server Client and its SQL. The database client makes your life easy. It supports databases MySQL, MariaDB, Microsoft SQL Server, Postgres SQL, SQLite, MongoDB, Redis, and Elasticsearch.
It's got a lot.
Here it is.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yep, so it's pretty cool. Like we talked about last week, Eric's like, I don't know why people have apps anymore when you can put everything in VS Code. So like it looks like a full app in here. The connect to the database setting looks really cool. You can do tables of data. It'll spit out all your data in here. You can see your table listing on the left-hand side. You can write queries, and so it doesn't. I don't think it has everything maybe that the other tool for Oracle MySQL has, but it has a lot of stuff. It's pretty cool and a lot of configuration.
Oh, is that Oracle? What's it called? Oracle Browser or something like that?
SQL, yeah, Oracle SQL, MySQL Browser or something. But it was pretty cool. But it has caching database structures and stuff, so you can refresh your cache for the database. You can generate mock data too, so you can generate mock data for a table. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Ooh, I didn't know that. And then
this was definitely someone's passion project, wasn't it?
Yep. And so you can back up and import and export data and structures. There's a lot of things in this one. This actually might have a few more tools than the other one. So, do filtering and everything. There's some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, just build inside of VS Code. So all those the usual features you like the filtering is just built right into it. Pretty slick. So it's got amazing. A nice series of items here, but I'm gonna have to check that one out. I definitely like those, and the cool thing is that you could have another VS Code open on your other window if you want to use that. But again, when I'm usually on a laptop, that's what I think is is good, is that having it in the same editor. If you've got like I got 4 windows most of the time, 4 screens, then I can put on another window. I'll have an app for it, but sometimes
that was one of the things that I really liked in this VS Code experiment that I'm doing. Basically, got to put command box in the terminal, and when you have an API server, but you have a couple different, let's say, front end like React or Vue or anything else, you're spinning those up separately. So instead of having 3 or 4 windows open, 2 for the JavaScript sites, 1 for the API, it's all nice contained. I can have 3 different terminal tabs basically in VS Code, and everything's nice and contained. It's very handy. All right, well, we are coming up on the end of the day. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. These individuals are personally supporting our open source initiatives to ensure the great toolings like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, CacheBox, DocBox, all the boxes that are out there, and they keep getting continuous development that they need. And they fund the cloud infrastructure at our community that the community relies on, like ForgeBox and our package management system with CommandBox. You can support us on Patreon here at patreon.com/Ortus Solutions.
Yep. So we have annual memberships, so you get to save 10% if you sign up for the year. Our bronze packages and up now get ForgeBox Pro and CFCast subscriptions as a perk for their Patreon subscription. And then all Patreon supporters has a profile badge on the community website, and they all have their private forum on the community website, which is at community.ortussolutions.com. So that's where we migrated all of our items from. So all the old Google groups for everything, and they're all in one place now. So it's a little easier for us to manage. And we got some RSS feeders, so if you want to, keep up to date on it, you can set that up as well. It's pretty cool. But our Patreons, we have a lot of Patreons, and our new Patreon, Jordan Clark, just signed up. So he's one of our top Patreons supporters now. So thank you, Jordan, for signing up, and I think he's might be at a gold level. So I'm excited to see that. So that's awesome. Cool. You want to read off the rest of them?
Here's our Patreons. We have Jordan Clark, who started, John Wilson from Synaptrix, Brian Gitanelli from Haggerty Motors, Motorsport Reg, who's hiring, by the way, in case you didn't get that from the rest of the time. Eric Kaufman, Gary Knight, Mario Rodriguez, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Dan Card, Jonathan Perrette, Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media, Dean Motter, Will DeBruyne, Joseph Lamore, Don Bellamy, Jan Yannick, Lakshmi Tirtahadi, Carl von Stetten, Jeremy Adams, Didier Lesnicki, Matthew Clemente, Daniel Garcia, Stott Steinbeck from Agro Tracking Systems, who's in the audience. Thank you very much. Ben Nadell, who pretty much provides a lot of our blog posts. Thank you. Brett DeLine, Kai Koenig, Charlie Earhart, Jonas Erickson, Jason Dager, Sean Oden, Matthew Darby, Ross Phillips, Edgardo Cabezas, Patrick Flynn, Stephanie Monge, John Wish, Kevin Wright, and Peter Amiri from CF Wheels, as you mentioned before. This is a really educational blog post, because up until like 2 weeks ago, I thought it was Stephanie Monge. It's not, it's Monge.
Yep.
Stephanie's an Ortus employee, and I've worked with her many times, and didn't know how to say her name, evidently.
Yeah, it's okay. Even with the pronunciation guide, I still mess up a lot of names. But I'm a foreigner. I'm allowed to get away with that.
Exactly,
Yeah, I talk funny for a reason.
It's the time difference. It throws everybody off. I'm with you.
For sure. But you can see a list of all the sponsors up on the Ortus Solutions website. We try and keep them up to date as we get new ones. And you can go to ortussolutions.com/about-us/sponsors. And we just really want to thank everybody who tunes in and listens to this podcast, either live chatting with us. A lot of our supporters are doing that, but also we have a lot of great people, listening on YouTube, listening on their podcast player, and we really appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, we've got lots of great content coming. You got your webinar. We got my online CF meetup on Thursday. Got my live stream and my special guest on Friday. So it's going to be a lot of great content. So have a great week. Hopefully I'll see you at some of those events. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, everybody.
Sounds good.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.